Well, we're back with David Morgan, silver-investor.com, fresh from a swing to Hong Kong to talk to another one of the conferences. I trust that went well?
It went well indeed. I was a keynote, and it was rather controversial talking about not only the silver market, which was the beginning of the speech, but I called it Silver, the Coming Hyperinflation, and the Demise of America. So it was quite a well-rounded speech. The hyperinflation, I said, I don't think will take place in the United States because there's so much governing forces between the bond markets and interest rates. But I didn't rule out enough inflation to cause a lot more distortions than we've already seen. And then lastly, the demise of America was more about the rule of law not being upheld time and time again, which is really what made this country so great. It could be said many things did. But really, when you boil it down, it's the rule of law, it's the contract, that when I say I'm going to do something, I do it, but if I don't, I'm held accountable. Those type of things have really waned in the last several years, as we all know, if we're truthful, and that is a big part of the problem. So, Gary, that's what I talked about.
All right, well, when you think about the demise of America, in other words, the business ethics and how people do business now, and, the golden rule seemingly has been melted down, much like some of the markets.
Exactly, and I went on to point out that as America goes, so goes the world. I mean, we still have a rather large GDP. We're very significant as far as being the leaders in innovation, education as well. And although we probably have lost our place in the world in several other categories, a lot of countries still look to America for leadership, and that is probably the greatest loss of all. There really hasn't been any significant leadership in this country, in my view, for a very long time.
Europe continues to dominate, continues to be a real steering current when you talk about the equity markets. What's happening over there, the fear that it's going to be happening here, the disrespect, and really the I don't know, the whole thing, the alloy, the if you assessed governments as precious metal, many of them would turn out to be fool's gold, iron pyrite, Is that not the problem that's causing a lot of folks to flee to metals and just be out of the markets altogether?
Yes, it boils down to an issue of trust or confidence. And people globally are losing confidence in their respective governments, confidence in the system as it stands, and they just don't trust what they hear on TV or whatever the venue might be, the mainstream media. And because of that fact, people have a natural instinct, in my view, to protect themselves not only on a survival basis, but also on a financial basis if they can afford to. And because of that, they look for alternatives, and you don't have to really look too far to realize that gold and silver are really the best avenues that are outside of the financial system that still are known, respected, and used as money globally.
Okay, now, David, silver-investor.com, money, mining, and metals, a well-respected voice out there in this field. So what are you telling, if we may look over your shoulder a little bit, what are you telling your subscribers, your affinity group, those who invest in this newsletter? And you can find out more at silver-investor.com. But we're wondering, what are you saying to them about how they should be playing precious metals?
A couple things, Gary. Number one is I really believe that the mining equities have bottomed. I think they bottomed about a month ago. It looks like we might have to test that bottom again here as we're doing your interview. But I'm pretty certain that the bottom for the mining shares is here. Regardless of what the overall market does, and that surprises people because normally if we get a big sell-off in the general equity market, the mining shares sympathize with it. I'm not saying that won't happen this time. If it does, I think it'll be very minor. In other words, they really can't go much lower in my studied view. On top of that, the mining equities usually bottom before the metals themselves. And that is very, very good indicator. It's not 100% accurate, but almost. If I'm right about the metal mining equities, then I also think that the metals themselves are bottoming as we speak. I don't see silver going much below the 2610 level that it hit recently. I think that's about it. We also saw Sprott Precious Metals Trust come in for silver, the PSLV, the Physical Silver Trust, and buy $200 million worth of silver in the physical realm. And I really believe that that's going to put a floor around this price of 27-ish. And I'm looking for the metals prices to work themselves higher by the end of the year.
Okay, now we look at what's happening with gold here. It's kind of vacillating, 15, 16, not much push to go lower or higher. You're still of the opinion, you're silver-investor.com, not gold-investor.com. So you still like it silver above gold?
Well, I like them both, as you know, Gary, but right here and right now, I think silver's probably a better opportunity. And I have to stay consistent because for the mid-level service where people get to watch my trades, I put on a spread recently, which is long silver, short gold. Doesn't mean I dislike gold. All it says is what you just made an innuendo about, and that is that silver will probably outperform gold over the next 3-4 months. And I believe that's the case, and that's one way to capitalize on it. So certainly I've got my money where my mouth is. We'll see if I'm right here in the not-too-distant future.
Well, when we look at silver and the value of silver in today's world versus gold and the shortage mentality, you have to say silver does stack up pretty well.
Yeah, it does. It's actually outperformed gold all the way up, although there's been times you might have not wanted to be in the silver market because the takedowns or the retracements can be quite significant, very tough to take. But nonetheless, if you put the same amount of money into gold or silver at the same time, starting at the beginning of the bull market, you would be better off in the silver market than you are in the gold market.
Okay. However,
I think you should own both. And for most, especially people that are in this investment range, usually are of the age of 45, 50 and higher, and that means that they really don't want these wild volatile swings that you see in silver. So if you put gold in with silver, it helps to balance out the portfolio.
Final question for David Morgan, silver-investor.com. Our money, mining, and metals guy. Been too long since we've had him on the last. Really like hearing David and what he's got to say and his voice out there. But what is the value of silver-investor.com for those who would like to partake?
Well, you're going to get some timing, which is critical for any investment. You're going to get somebody that's been in the metals markets for 4 decades. I've got a staff of top researchers. We found one company recently that went up 80% over the last couple of months while this market was really getting beat up badly. We do great work. I hate to sound egotistical. It's not just me. It's a bunch of hardworking people that really have your interest as well as our own and our hearts. We want you to succeed in this industry or in this investing regime, and we do our best to make that happen.
Tell us about the newsletter. They can find out more at silver-investor.com. So they could get the newsletter, or they could become more active and actually hire you as a consultant on like an hourly basis?
That's correct. Usually that's people with a pretty high net worth that will have a specific question, 2 or 3. And I've gotten very positive feedback on that. Of course, I can't give you any names of my clients, but trust me that some of these people are pretty high up the food chain, if you will, and they are looking to protect their asset base with silver and gold, and they really see what's going on. I'd like to say more, but if you could read between the lines, some of your more established mainstream media types that might say one thing are actually doing something else, and that's about as far as I can go.
How about that? Well, there's a story. We'll have to see if that door opens a little bit more. That sounds entirely intriguing. How about that? A member of the media actually saying one thing and doing another. As a member of the media, I'm not saying myself, but that doesn't surprise me, but there's a lot of stuff going on there in the background I know you can't talk about, but wow, I hope to find out more about that story. The newsman in me, I am piqued and intrigued, David.
Well, thank you, Gary. It was a bit of a shock to me. Another client actually was down with PIMCO, the biggest bond trader, Bill Gross, and after he met with Bill, he called me very early the next day and decided to take a pretty big whack out of the silver market.
Wow.
So, there's people that understand what's happening, and there isn't a very good solution. I think the best solution was admit the problem, get some strong leadership. But in the meantime, you've got to look after your own, and that means you and your family and your friends and your close associates. And to do that, I think you have to have a position in precious metals. Certainly, I'm not a doom and gloomer. I think that if you have a 10% holding you're probably going to do just fine. But nonetheless, if you don't have that, I think you're making a mistake.
Count on him. David Morgan, silver-investor.com. Great to hear from you as usual. Travel safe. We'll have you back sooner rather than later, David.
Thank you, Gary. It's been a pleasure to be back with you.